Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we're live on a Friday evening, which means it's time for us to talk about coping with life. And as usual on a Friday evening, I'm going to do a couple of things. Number one, a Christmas present idea. We start them very early, so you've got time to play before Christmas. And the reason I wanted to do today's idea was because I have a large collection of materials, and a lot of it's cotton. And if there's one thing that cotton is really good for, it's making wax wraps. It will help us reduce our single-use plastic, and means that it's like a twofer. We get use out of the material that we promised ourselves we would make something out of, or you know you can reuse something. If you've got an old T-shirt or something, it works particularly well with cotton. Just so that you know. So I've got uh, some beautiful damask cotton, lots of it. And I thought it would make beautiful wax wraps. Never made them before, so this is the big experiment. In the background, you will also see that I am cooking something out of the deep freeze. I found some beautiful salmon in there, and the only thing was it's frozen, and I'm not sure whether it was smoked salmon or straight salmon. I think it was smoked salmon, but what I did was I have baked it in an incredible mixture, which I will talk to you about when I've cleaned up the mess here a bit. Let's make the mess first. What do you think? So we've got material, first thing we need, and we've got some wax. A couple of things to talk about. I bought this container of wax blocks. They come this size, all right, for about $22, I think. Now, if you happen to have a beehive outside, obviously this is not going to be an issue for you, but I don't. So I bought the beeswax. And there's just something about the smell of it. Be careful using beeswax because at a low temperature it melts. At a higher temperature it does all sorts of strange things. So just be very careful when you're melting it. I decided what I would do is to melt mine on a coffee mug warmer. And it worked beautifully, as I will show you. So let me just say hello to Jody, to Jeannie, and to Isabel, and anybody else that's in the background there. A very big hello to you. So over there, I have got that. Anybody else a bit excited about this? I've always wanted to do this. Now, I'm not going to do it the right way, because I never do. I'm just going to play and see what happens. What do you think? So I don't want to get the wax yet because as soon as I start to bring it. Now, the first thing I've done is I've protected my surfaces because wax is wax, all right? And I've got an old baking tin that if I ruin it, it's not a problem, but I've lined it with wax paper, something I've got too much of. And I've cut myself a little square-ish, not quite square. Or is it? Oh, just about. That was a big surprise. Way more square than I thought it would be. So I'm going to put that in there. All right, what's Jody saying here? I've seen those wax wraps and they look interesting, a great experiment. I thought so. I've always wanted to try one. What they recommend is that you have something to push the wax around with. Okay, that's one thing. So I've got a little baby spatula here so that I can sort of, push it around. The other thing is, as soon as it starts to cool, it's going to harden. So I've also got with me a hairdryer to make it liquid again, which will be a bit noisy, but you'll get over that. Shall we try? Oh, the first thing I did, just so you know, I took the wax and let's do this in the right order. Yeah, you can see it's quite hard to cut it. So I didn't, but I will do now just to make it easier. There we go. Okay, and then I put it in a blender. Think about this. Your blender is going to be covered in wax. That's why I'm doing it in the summer. Because once I've finished with all of this, I'm going to put it in my greenhouse window where the temperature goes to 120. and I will basically get rid of all the extra wax by melting it onto some paper towel or onto more wraps. Think about that, very useful. So, all right, so I'm just going to drop it in there. This is just a magic bullet, it's nothing fancy, and it's an old one. Okay, there it is. Gonna make a noise now. Now, obviously, if this halfway works, I'm going to be doing a major production and making a whole stack of these at one time. The reason being, it's going to be messy, all right? So here's the wax. Oh, it did quite a good job, actually. Okay, so it just, now I could have used a grater. Would have been a greater problem. So I wonder which one will work better. Shall we do one of each to see? Okay. Because what I'm going to do is to take one and pour it, see what works, and then we'll take the other one where we've got the other bits. Okay, let's do the pouring one first. So excited. Here we go. So I'm just moving the wax around, and it is literally hardening up very quickly, as I thought it might. But we've got plans for that, haven't we? Okay. Here we go. That works. That works remarkably well. Now, I think I got too much wax on here, which is fine. Better too much than not enough. By the way, have any of you done this? Just so that I can learn. So I just want to show you. Okay. So here it is, like this. Now it's got way too much, but I'm thinking, make a plan, Sal. What if I take this, take a second wrap, now that I know it doesn't need that much. And by the way, it was one of those little blocks. That's what I wanted to make sure that you could see what did one block make. So now let's go for it again. That worked too. Now, obviously, you could use an iron, but protect your iron. But what I'm doing is just making a plan here, because I realized that the first lot was a bit too much. Okay. It's still too much. Look at it. That worked too. All right, that works. Okay, so now then. The idea is that once you've got the wax on here, and I'm just going to spread the wax out a bit. Okay, then it's not a bad idea to sort of hang it up somewhere, you know, just so that it can all dry. Now, this is the bit that I used, not the original bit, this is the bit that I used, and I think I can still keep doing this for a couple of them. Do you get the idea, though? Now, it is messy, but if you like messy crafts, this is going to be fun to do. And it obviously is going to take practice and a lot more research. But as you can see, one stick probably is enough wax to do a set of 4. That is excellent. And there are 12 sticks in for $20. That is actually not bad. All right. Especially, yeah, Jodie's saying a smart idea to make an entire batch at one time. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it on a really sunny day, so that, quite honestly, how many of you know I'm going to be making them in my sunny window? Now that I know that I can melt, you know, break up the wax nicely, I will then, you know, overload one, as I did by accident, no coincidences, put another one on top and put it in my window and let my solar oven do its job. I think that's actually quite good fun. And that would mean I could make a whole lot. I can cut up a whole lot of the beeswax and be ready to go and just keep rotating them. So yes, definitely doable. I just want to see, this hasn't quite dried yet. However, be aware everything is going to end up with wax on it. So my idea is that I will put it upside down over another piece of material, put it in the greenhouse window, which gets so hot, and just let the wax drain off the glass. Obviously, you can scrape it, but you know, why work hard when you can work smart? So how many of you are going, not that difficult, but it is messy, no doubt about it. So if you happen to have a workshop where you can do this, that would be a great idea, but a great thing to do in the summer, because you could actually just do this outside, not even have it in the house. You could do it outside, you know, in the garden. A great fun thing to do with the kids, if you've got kids or grandkids. And this one, just about dry, not quite. But for those of you who don't know what a wax wrap is, it basically, instead of using plastic, yeah, instead of using single-use plastic, you use a wrap. And the heat of your hand will mold the wrap and keep the seal. Now, not quite as good as the other product that we know of, but it certainly saves you using a whole lot of one-use plastic. Good idea? Now I'm looking forward to another hot day. So now that this has dried and it's got way too much on it, we know that. All right, I just want to show you what a really strong one would look like. Yeah. Oh, look at that. It works beautifully. Look at it. Couple of things that I found out. And one of them, funny enough, was from one of my guests who has made them. That, you know, if you're going to wash them, don't use hot water for obvious reasons, because you don't want to melt the wax. Just, rinse them with cold water and a little bit of soap, and then rinse them off, and then put them flat and let them dry again. Does that make sense? That is so cool. How many of you know I'm quite excited about this? I can see a lot of possibilities here, but it's going to happen in my window, like my dehydration. The other thing is, I've got way too much wax on here, which was excellent. And if you find that you're using them and they're losing their ability to keep a shape, just add a bit more wax and let it melt on there again, and you start all over again. You won't need to do a whole one. You just need to put the wax where it needs to be. Needs to be beeswax. Yeah, right. I think that's quite exciting. Definitely people are going to get some of those for Christmas. And what I wanted to do is to do it from scratch, so you guys could see. This is Sal when she doesn't know what she's doing. Imagine how quickly, you know what my mind's thinking. You know, I've got that crepe maker, the flat one. If I were making this in the winter, I'd make it on there. I'd cover that with foil and then put the wax there and heat it gently and then just keep dipping. Oh yeah, that would work really well. If you've got a slow cooker, put a jug like this in the slow cooker put the water in the slow cooker, get it hot, and then put a jug in there. How else would you do it? Doesn't really matter. Yes, Jody's saying maybe some large ones to wrap homemade bread in as a gift. Never thought of that. Yeah. So that they could reuse yeah, that would be a very large one though, Jody. But good thinking. Good thinking. My mind is definitely going in all sorts of directions. But here was what I was thinking. Do any of you have any unused white candles in your life that you probably half used and didn't want to throw the rest of it away, but you haven't done it? And I'm thinking I've got a box full in my shed. And from what I can gather, it will work. So I will make the beeswax ones, but then I will also make some regular ones. I've got plenty of wax. I'm liking this. Okay, so that's for tomorrow, if I have sunshine. There isn't much mess at the moment, but you know that there would be. And I have got wax on this. I've got wax on this. So the same thing. I'm going to keep these on one side, and then when it's a hot day, I'm going to put them all in the window there and let it all melt onto fabric. The main thing is to know every little bit of wax is useful, so don't throw it away, all right? And don't put it down the drain. Don't put it down the drain because it will solidify and clog up your drains. Well, Jody's saying you have so many creative ideas on this. Well, you know, it's just like, to me, it's one of those things I've always wanted to try. And now I'm quite excited because it isn't that difficult. Even Sal can do it. So I also cut up a couple of bits, you know, some different shapes that I thought I would try. And what I'm going to do is to use them and test them and let you know roughly, you know, how much wax. Obviously, I had way too much on the first one. How many of you remember that I said I was going to buy myself a set of black face cloths rather than use paper towels this year? I bought a dozen. I've had them and been using them for about a month now. I want to tell you, such a great idea. I did have white ones and I've used them all my life, used white ones, but black ones are way better. I don't think twice about mopping up some oil with them. I don't think twice about throwing it on the floor and just, you know, cleaning the floor with them if I've dropped something on the floor. So, and they awesome in the washer, you know, don't take up a whole lot of room. I normally end up using all 12 of them during the week, just so you know. But I also use them sometimes and then just drop them in the dishwasher overnight and reuse it the next day. So just want to tell you, this was not a waste of money idea. This was a good idea. And it definitely has saved, you know, on paper towels. All right, so here's my dinner. This was a piece of salmon that I've actually cooked. But when I took it out of the freezer, I wasn't sure whether or not it was smoked salmon or not. It did have this incredible, beautiful color, which made me think that it probably is. But I thought I don't want to risk it. And then I found out that with my air fryer, you can cook in an air fryer from frozen. You can cook salmon frozen in an air fryer. So I said, even if it is smoked salmon, I'm going to cook it up like it's fresh salmon. So, because you can do that in an air fryer. So I covered it, Jeannie, I'm glad you're here, because I covered it in a mix of, Jeannie sent me this mustard, so I always like to give her credit for that, of the raised mustard, and this time I used the Jamaican, the Jameson Tavern. Sounds so good, doesn't it? I mixed that in with some maple syrup, but I got the Steve's one, which is much more friendly for me because I have sugar issues. So I mixed that up together with some salt and pepper. And didn't do too much, just a little bit. So I'm just going to put a little bit more on and heat it up. So I did 7 minutes. Just hang on 1 second. I did 7 minutes on the skin side up, but I put some oil on both sides so it didn't stick to the basket in the air fryer. And then after 7 minutes, I turned it over and put the mixture on top of it. Did another 7 minutes. And now I'm just going to warm it up. And by the way, I took 1/4 cup of rice and made enough rice for 2 meals. So this is about half full. I'll be shredding the salmon on top of it and putting some more of that maple syrup over it. But, you know, it made 2 meals. You know, I'm trying to use the peas, but I accidentally bought way too many peas as well. So that's my meal. In fact, 2 meals. made out of my deep freeze that I'm desperately trying to work my way through. When the pandemic happened, I bought a big chest freezer and I filled it to the absolute top. And now I'm trying to systematically work my way through that food. But boy, it's hard work. Uh, so there we go. So that's my broadcast for today. I wanted to show you a quick way to make yet another Christmas present, but started in the summer because I think it's a good thing to make in the summer because of the heat. And then, why use other power when you can use solar power? So I'm going to be doing a lot of experiments with that, and I'll give you some feedback when I found out how that works for me. And then the other thing is use what is in your freezer before you have to throw it away. I am already throwing away vegetables that I put in there at the beginning of the pandemic because they've been in there way too long. And I've got cooked vegetables in there that I'm throwing away. But at least I had the food, and that was the important thing. So this is DearMamaSal saying thank you for being here. Thank you for being with me during the pandemic, because I clean forgot that I actually had put some salmon away. And I think I put the salmon away fairly recently, like within the last year. So I'm not too worried about it being off or anything. It's a really good freezer. So I'm looking forward to just having some of that tonight. Ah, that's so kind. Isabel saying we learn a lot from you during this time. Well, you know something? If I'm smart, I probably can eat out of that freezer for a couple of years. I'm not joking. Even, almost totally out of there. I've got milk in there. I've got, you name it. I've got all sorts of stuff in there. So what I'm going to try and do is keep doing a Friday segment where I bring something out of the deep freeze and go, okay, this is part of getting rid of what's in the deep freeze. The trick is not to put more back in. So the reason that I make a point of saying, I have rice, even though I'm diabetic, I have rice every now and then, but I only cook a quarter of a cup of rice at a time. I rinse it 5 times before I cook it to get rid of most of the starch, and then I cook it and it makes 2 meals. All right? So that to me is the important thing, is that I can have it all, but I just need it in moderation, and it has worked for me. All right, so I hope you had some fun with this, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. I'm obviously going to thoroughly enjoy my salmon, and I'll be back with you on Sunday when we're going to talk about coping with stress. This is DearMamaSal saying thanks for being here, and bye-bye for now.